Hello and welcome to my ever messy art studio. My name is Keeks, and today we are going to be going over a sketchbook tour. La 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 la, drum roll. So yes, this is my everyday sketchbook. I have been sketching in this almost every day for the past 4 months. This sketchbook was really a huge stress relief for me, and most of the sketches in here are actually using Neocolor IIs because that's one of my very favorite art utensils to use, especially if it's just to sketch an idea or to just play around with things. So I do have some stickers on my sketchbook, but they're not from anything special. So these I'm pretty sure are just like from the Amazon little dollar Temu type stickers. But I do like what it says. Life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about dancing in the rain. I like that. And then on the back, I just have a Dutch Bros sticker. So nothing to call home about there. But like I said, for the past 4 months, I have been steadily filling this sketchbook with so many different things. And I'm excited to be able to share it with you. So without further ado, let's begin. So this sketchbook was started on July 30th, 2025 and was finished on January 7th of 2026. So just today was actually whenever I finished it, which it will probably be tomorrow by the time I post this. Whenever I first started out the sketchbook, I wanted to try and, make it a journaly sketchbook. But over a time period, it shifted and just became my Neocolor II sketchbook where I would relieve stress every day, whether it was before work, after work, sometimes on breaks. And I really ended up enjoying this sketchbook, and I'm actually kind of sad that I'm finished with it because that means I have to use a different sketchbook. I don't know if I mentioned before, but this is also my Royal Talons art creation journal. So this was the first one I had tried of this type because so many different artists had been using it at the time. On this first page, we have some bees, and it says, "Babe in total control of herself." That's something that a friend of mine once said, if someone calls you a bitch, just know that you're a babe in total control of yourself, and it's totally fine. So absolutely love that. So then I put like a queen bee here, and then these are supposed to be like the colony bees, and then there's some honey dripping out of there. Over here, this is a picture of a dog from our neighborhood. So there's this couple that will actually roll out their dog on a cart because there's something wrong with its hind legs, and sometimes it'll just lay in the grass, sometimes it needs help, doing its outdoor business, but it is always the happiest dog ever whenever it's just laying in the grass. It always has this really sweet smile on its face, so I wanted to capture that. This next page is one of my favorites. It's a rubber ducky isopod. For those of you that don't know what an isopod is, those are roly-polies. That's a type of isopod. And these roly-polies have yellow faces with a little orange bill on the front of them, and they're super, super cute. So I did a little rubber ducky with the rubber ducky isopod. And then what I did was, this was watercolor. So with the watercolor, I just added extra water to create these little circle patterns, and they ended up looking like bubbles, and I absolutely loved it. And then on this side over here is actually a colored pencil drawing. For this drawing, it is a Picasso bug, and I really liked the Picasso bug because I don't know if you can tell, it has like this really pretty dark teal green pattern on it, and then it has like this corally color, and then it has a white shell overall. So I just thought it was a pretty bug and I wanted to draw it. Over here is a ring-necked pheasant. I actually really love this part right here where the white is. I think the way the white is highlighted in the neck really turned out cool. Over here is supposed to be the view of trees if you were laying on the ground looking up. So I just thought that that was a really fun abstract little project to do. These are just thumbnails, me playing around with different little art utensils, really. Like these are Tombows, these are watercolor, and what I was trying to do was I was trying to just thumbnail a landscape without putting any details to see if it would still read as a landscape. I think this one definitely does, and I think it looks really cool. This one, not really, but it was a fun thing to try. This is not one of my favorite spreads in this. I have always struggled doing birds, and this bird looks cute, but this bird over here is super messy, and it's not my favorite, and I kind of gave up in the middle of drawing it. But you know, not everything works out in sketchbooks, and that's totally fine. So my husband and I are big fish people. So on this one are some freshwater fish. You have a goldfish going blub blub with this like funny look on his face. And then I think this is supposed to be a type of betta fish, and this is a type of tetra. So I love his face, it's just funny. And then this one here is a saltwater fish. I can't think of what kind of fish this is offhand, but if you look up saltwater fish, this is one of the first species that shows up because it's pretty. It's a very popular species. Okay, so I love this picture. Some people probably won't like this picture after I explain it, but it's adorable to me. So what happened is we were walking in a forest, and I happened to look down at the base of a tree trunk, and there was this little kind of cavern in the tree, and there was a little spider poking his head out of his nest. It was so cute. I'm so sorry. I love spiders. I think they're adorable. But yeah, so I had to have a little reminder of that sweet little face that popped out. And this is actually done using Artex markers. I also used Artex and watercolor in this one. This is another version of a betta fish. This is a decorated betta fish, so it's very pretty. And if I actually kind of flash the page a little bit, I don't know if you can tell, but I actually used a gold glitter watercolor in the background of that. So it's pretty fun. My pages are stuck. There we go. So over here we have a little sea turtle. And if you actually look really close, you can actually see my pencil etchings in the shell and stuff, which kind of gives it a real textured look. And then over here we have another betta fish, but this one is all in Neocolor IIs. And this is really whenever I started transforming this book to mostly being Neocolors. You really don't see many of the other art tools used in it besides the Neocolor IIs from this point on. This is another type of spider that we often see in the forest. So this is called an arrowhead orb weaver. And the reason why it's called that is so this is a defensive position, which means that it's scared. So it's like covering its face and its body and trying to be as small as possible. And when it does that, you're able to see its back actually looks like an arrowhead, which is really cool. And then this is an owl. I think it's really funny. This page makes me laugh every time I see it because it says if Samuel L. Jackson was an owl, he'd say, "Hoot hoot, motherfuckers." I'm sorry, I think that's really funny. A little bit of child humor there. Over here we have a really pretty peacock. I really like how the colors mixed in this, especially up here. I think that looks really cool. And then this is a discus with some bubbles. Discuses are known for their interesting patterns and their intricateness, and a lot of them have red eyes for some reason, which is really interesting. This is a scroll and scribble. So I got all my scroll and scribble ideas from Art by Heather. Her channel is awesome. She does intuitive painting, she does 2-minute sketches, and she does scroll and sketches a lot. And this was one I did with her, you know, like while watching her. So this is supposed to be a black and white lily and a lily pad. This is supposed to be a piranha face. This was some kind of a bird. I can't remember if it was a penguin or if it was something else, but I love his little face. And then this was just simply a cup of coffee. This is another scroll and scribble. This one I think I did on my own. So this is a screech owl that I did here. And then this is a swing set, a real tall candle, a flower, and a peacock feather. So I'm not really sure why I left the owl all the way over here by himself and grouped all these guys together, but I do like the composition of this side. Something that I also want to tell you is I highly recommend putting little sheets of paper between your pages. What happens is when you're working in your sketchbook with Neocolor IIs and you go to press down, it'll actually stamp these Neocolors onto your other page. So on some of my pages you will see that happened, because that was before I started putting the slips of paper between the pages. Over here we've got some ramen. So I really like how the shrimp turned out and the little peas and stuff. I think it looks really tasty. And then we've got this really cool parrot. And with this parrot, if you look closely, it has like different colored feathers and stuff. I really enjoy the different color play in here and how this blended together. This was another scroll and scribble that I did with an Art by Heather video. So in it was a sphinx, this snake, which I think turned out pretty darn good, this fishing boat with a man in it, and even a fishing rod, which I think turned out exquisite. And then also this dandelion right here. But I really love how the boat and the man turned out. I've never tried anything like that before, and I think that was really successful. This is just a notes page. So on this side you see I'm playing a little bit with landscapes and tombos again, and then I'm also trying to test how much I can layer with the Neocolor IIs. And then over here I was trying the II nib pins, and so I tried all the different colors and looped them to see how I liked them. And then I used the violet one to write the recipe for lavender haze milk bath, which that's my one of my best friends' recipes. And then this next one right here was two different pieces of art that weirdly look like they're the same piece of art, but they're not, I promise. But I was watching a Katie Moody video and I was trying to follow along. The problem is I think I was layering things too thick. Like my water was too watery up here. And then you can kind of tell that I was struggling with layering, and it's because I was pushing too hard with the Neocolors and it was causing it not to want to be on top of each other. This is another testing page where I was testing these Faber-Castell pens. These are called Pit Artist pens, and they've got a flat little nib on them. And so you're supposed to be able to do calligraphy with it. So I was just kind of seeing what that looked like with my handwriting. And then over here, this was one I did in plein air at a forest. So I was just sitting there on a bench looking down at the path, which was covered in leaves and moss and stuff. So I did that. This next page was the very first leaf of fall that I found while I was in the forest. It was this beautiful bright red leaf, and it was just laying there on the ground on the path. And so I very quickly snapped a picture of it, and when I got home I decided to draw it. Love how that turned out. And then this one over here is actually also from that forest. A lot of the things that we saw that day were different types of mushrooms that were growing, and we were lucky enough to actually be able to see turkey tail. Which I like this picture, but I wish I would have done a background color to kind of bring out the white and the turkey tails. I feel like it kind of gets lost where you're not sure if it's supposed to be there or not, but it is. This next picture here is a little tugboat. This was one of my scroll and scribbles because I like to do them on my own time too. I have my own Pinterest board with copyright-free images on it that I like to play with myself. And I just really loved this tugboat and wanted to draw him. He was a tugboat that was crashed in the desert. This is my gay pride cheetah. One of my other best friends, Amanda, is a lesbian, and this really reminds me of her because she's always decorating things in rainbow. So this is my I Love Amanda page. These were playing around with the idea of these diva plants. So what a diva plant is, in my opinion, are these sassy looking plants with these like really cool big lips and like pointy teeth. And the whole idea is that they're total divas because we have plants at our house that if you don't water them on just the right day, they suddenly slouch like they're dying, but then you water them and they're perfectly fine like an hour later. So those are my diva plants that inspired the divas. If you can't tell what that says, it says plant mom. And then this over here is what I call an owlopus or an octo-owl. Owl? Verby? Demon? I don't know. But I really liked both of these designs and wanted to pick one to play with, and I ended up picking the diva plants. So on the next page, I ended up doing a bunch of different color testing to see what variations I liked better and what designs that I enjoyed. And so I've got all of those plus my little notes in there. I even have notes on the pots. This was also one where I was trying to design a logo for Good Vibes, which is not a company or anything. I just wanted to try to work on lettering and stuff like that. So I was just coming up with some different coloration ideas. I was also kind of thinking about maybe doing some sort of Fortnite pictures, like for Peely. There was a Bush Warrior one, Fish Stick, and Peabody. Okay, so on this page, it looks a little ridiculous on purpose. So these are drawings of skulls from memory, which I knew were gonna look like crap, because on the next page is where it really shines. And on the next page is actually where I did a tutorial, and the video was called Drawing Skulls is Easier Than You Think, and it was by Draw Sessions on YouTube. And I was able to draw the front-facing skull and a side-facing skull, and no joke, I think these are the best skulls I've ever drawn. And yeah, that was a really good and in-depth tutorial. And then this next page is one of my favorite spreads in the whole book. I just love how creepy and cool this is. And honestly, every time I look at this, it kind of reminds me of my husband because he likes these type of colors. And he likes fish. Not dead fish, he likes live fish. But anyway, I just really enjoyed the idea of like a glowing skeleton fish that was like all creepy and stuff. So I really love this page. This page here was in plein air, but I accidentally oversaturated the page. It's supposed to be a bunch of lily pads, and then there's one little flower popping up because on the pond that we were fishing at, there was just a weird grouping of lily pads and a big bright orange flower. So I was trying to capture that memory. Over here was from my own Scroll and Scribbles. We got a pair of pliers, a hammer, and a wrench. And I think that they look really stylized and pretty cool. Like, I have no qualms with how those turned out. This is so sometimes whenever you're in your sketchbook, you just draw dumb things because you can. I promise I can draw a 2D better than that, but I didn't care when I was drawing it. I was just bored. So don't think that everything in your sketchbook has to be perfect. That ain't perfect, but it's fun. And then over here, I've got some pumpkins, and my favorite thing about these pumpkins is the texture on each layer of pumpkin. I feel like those were really cool, and I was actually practicing for some artist trading cards that I was making at the time that were pumpkin and gourd related. So this next page, I was really getting into Sophie McPike, and you know, she always draws these full-figured women who are just, you know, happy to be as themselves and stuff. Like, she loves drawing the human figure in these weird cartoony shapes that end up feminine. So I was doing an intuitive drawing, and I guess because I was thinking about that so much, I ended up with a woman in my intuitive drawing session, so I thought that was fun. Over here we have a chicken, which might be part of the chicken conspiracy theory. If you know, you know. Anyway, so this picture right here is another intuitive drawing I did, like where I didn't really have a plan. I just kind of let my hand do whatever it wanted to. And I do think that this was inspired by Sophie McPike too, just because of the body shape that I ended up drawing here. But this always makes me think of Mother Nature, and it makes me want to watch Moana a lot too, because it makes me think of the goddess that was at the end of Moana. This one was drawn on a day where I wasn't really feeling myself, so I was trying to remind myself to stay positive and love myself. So I just did kind of another Sophie McPike type figure, and then I did some flowers because one of my favorite things to do with Neocolors is to make flowers, and then I just put love yourself. I love the flowers in her hair. That's one of my favorite parts about that one. So this next one here was before I got my tattoo apprenticeship, I was like, I should probably practice doing roses and Black Panthers, ha ha ha. So I did, and then decided that I wasn't going to take this art journal for them to look at. I was taking a different one, so I ended up having to redraw both of these, but I think they turned out pretty good. For those of you who don't know, as of the first of the year, I actually stopped my apprenticeship. I loved my shop. The shop I was at was awesome. Everything was going great. I just didn't have the time for it. I wanted to make more time for family. And also I was starting to have some problems with my perfectionism because I was feeling like my art wasn't good enough. And that wasn't anything that anyone was pushing on me or anything like that. It's just something that when I'm pressured with my art or am needing to make a deadline with my art, I find that I'm very self-critical about myself. So it did end up not working out. But I did make a lot of great friends and I learned so many things. It was really cool. So I really enjoyed my time as apprentice. Over here we have the Shy Guys from Mario. I just drew it because I thought it was funny. I was really bored and was like, why not? These over here are some mushrooms I drew, and I don't know why, but they remind me of the mushrooms you put on pizza because I just want to chop them and eat them. So I don't know if that's normal or not. I don't even know if those are the right kind of mushrooms, but they look delicious and I might eat them if we stay on this page. This is another one where it's a low effort page. It was one of those days where I wasn't really feeling like doing art, but I wanted to at least put something on the page to say, hey, I did something creative today. So I just did a little flower and then left it at that. This over here is a lion's eye. One of my favorite things about this is if you actually look at the eye, there's a bunch of green little details in it. So I think I did a really cool job of that and the white highlights that are in it. One of my favorite things to draw with Neocolor IIs is flowers. So sunflowers are something I always gravitate toward, and lately I've been trying not to gravitate to them too often because I feel like I'm overdoing them a bit. But I absolutely love sunflowers and I like how simple these are. This is a little frog friend. This was one of my scroll and scribbles that I did, and it was just a frog on a tree. I think that's a dart frog of some sort. So I just tried to redraw him. I think I did okay. I think you can tell it's a frog, but I would like to draw more frogs before I attempt to do that again. This is really a spread that I just don't think works very well, if I'm honest. This was from a scroll and scribble, and I tried to get all the colors right that were in the image, but some of the tans ended up blending with the browns, and there's not enough contrast in it, I think is what the problem is with this picture. And then this one over here was another day where I was like, you know what, I just want to put something on the page, so I just did a little clownfish. Didn't put much effort into him, but I think he's cute. This over here is whenever I got my first batch of 50th anniversary Neocolor IIs. So I got the one that had the portraits on the front of it and the one that had the plants on it. And so I swatched them both with their crowns and then also with a bit of swoosh with some water. And then after I did that, I ended up doing these pieces, which are based off of the covers of those. So this looks very similar to the cover on the Neocolor IIs that were for portraits, and this is the one that was for the foliage. I really love how the shading around her lips turned out. I would have never thought to do that myself. Bah. This dog is so cute and funny. He's just like, bah. You just want to stick your tongue out at him. Oh yes, what a good boy. Over here we've got a cup of coffee. I did attempt to put some steam over the coffee, but I'm not sure I was super successful with it. It kind of just looks like the coffee's on fire, which I'm not really sure is what I was going for. But the beans look good. From this point on, you can start to notice that with the Neocolor IIs, I'm starting to cover the entire pages, which I think is really cool because before I was almost afraid to cover the whole page, whereas now I'm just experimenting with colors and having a lot more fun with them. Even on days where I'm not really feeling myself, or if I'm feeling ill, like on this day I wasn't feeling very good, just slap some color down, just create something. This is just simply my PlayStation 4 controller, or PlayStation 5 controller, excuse me. So like if you don't have something to draw, just draw what's in front of you. I don't know why this page spread makes me smile. Like, I think it's because both of these look both childish and playful. Like, I was really going for that little cutesy kawaii look with this little kitty. And then this flower was like an intuitive drawing that I was trying to do. And it just turned into a flower. And I just think maybe the way I outlined these made them look very 90s kid friendly. I don't know. I just really like them. It makes me feel young on this page. Okay, so this was a Google Street View on an unnamed road in Cambodia. So I was just playing around with landscapes. I wish that I would have done the trees a little bit differently because they kind of look like a firework of branches there, which is not really what it was. It was some sort of weird palm tree. But I think I captured the overall mood pretty good. This one was part of a scroll and scribble where I was watching art by Heather. She was drawing a shack in the woods. I think here's where I started to realize, hey, maybe you need to do some outlines with your work, because I feel like this would have looked really cool had there been an outline around some of these. So that's whenever I was getting in my head and I was like, maybe what would happen if I used some Millennium Zig pins, which are made by Kiritaki, because they're my favorite. What would happen if I would have drawn that and then colored over it? So this is where I was starting to kind of think about how can I get my style more into these. This page, I oversaturated it. So because I oversaturated it and found that I couldn't fix what I did, I just put a sticker over it. I was like, boom, I don't have to look at you anymore. These stickers were made by Lavender Cowboy Art, who is a transgender artist in Missouri, and they make really cool stickers with bugs, like raccoons, less loved animals. So I really enjoy their art. And then over here we've got a chicken. This was a scroll and scribble I did myself. So I have like this cool hanging lamp here. I'm not sure what this black blob is over here. I think that something happened when I was trying to color in the wall and it just ended up with this weird blob, but weirdly enough it looks like the silhouette of a person here, so I'm gonna say it's a ghost, and I like that. And then this here is supposed to be a big old log with a bunch of mushrooms on it, and then you've got a candle and a window. And I will tell you, when I was doing the candle with the window, I was scared I was gonna screw up the whole picture, but it ended up being the coolest part of the whole thing, in my opinion. So Art by Heather does a lot of intuitive art projects, and one of my favorite ones she does is just scribble and then add water to the Neocolor IIs and just see what kind of shapes take form. And mine was starting to form a griffin. So I, or actually this is a chimera, isn't it? Yeah, I think if it has a lion's face, it's a chimera. So I was looking at it and I was like, man, that looks a lot like a chimera. So what I'll do sometimes is, instead of making a full art piece like she does, I'll just outline what I see. And then later on, if I wanted to draw something like that, then I would take this and do like a more detailed version of it. So like I said earlier, after that one piece of art, I was like, man, I really need some outlines. So that's whenever I started really adding outlines with my Neocolor IIs. So here we have this keyhole with a landscape. And then over here we have a really cool landscape with a windmill. I really like how the vines and stuff on the windmill turned out. I think that turned out really nice. And I liked this cloudy, moody day. So as you know, with sketchbooks, they don't have to be perfect. So what I like to do is experiment in mine, and this was kind of an experiment. I was like, what would it look like if there were tables with wine glasses and then behind it a giant fish tank? Because I've eaten at one of those types of restaurants. They have one in Colorado, and my husband and I ate at, and we really liked it. So eventually I would like to do a full piece where it's like a restaurant like that. I think that would be fun. This is me messing with the Neocolor II 50th anniversary edition with the portrait one. So the portrait colors, except I just did some flowers because I really love drawing flowers, and then I did this really cool eyeball. And then I did some swatching up here of it. This is some more intuitive drawings. Like this one turned into this weird shack with what looks like, I don't know what I would consider that, some tower beside it. And I was just messing around with it. And then this one over here clearly turned into a shrimp for me. Like no matter what angle I looked at, I was like, that's a shrimp. So I turned it into a shrimp. Some more intuitive drawings. For this one, you gotta kind of turn it sideways to see what it is. So this is supposed to be like a duck. Like I could see the outline of a duck, but I couldn't figure out what to do with it. And then this one, I was starting to do the intuitive drawing process, but after I laid down the first layer of purple, I was like, that's a dancer. And so I just went ahead and made it a dancer instead of, or a gymnast, whatever that is, instead of continuing the process. This one's one of my favorite intuitive process ones because I loved that you could see the face of the dragon in there, so I drew in the face and part of the wings because I was just seeing a dragon man, and it was so interesting. And I love how dramatic this piece right here is, like where the head is. Like I want to repaint that dragon, and I think that would be really cool. Over here we have, I don't know, a platypus. I'm gonna say that's a platypus. I just love this like look on his face. He looks like he's been wandering around for days. Like, what is life? I really love the simplicity of this one. I don't know what it is about how like the oranges mixed with this blue down here on accident, but I just really love how simple and clean that is. It's pretty. And then this is a bird guy that I was drawing. I think this bird's much better than the other ones that I showed you. And I really like how the colors blend in this one. I think he's a cute little chubby thing. Some more intuitive drawings. If I had to guess what this one was, because I gave up after a while, I would say that this is a sun, this is some sort of landmass, and this is water. But I never really came up with a true consensus of what it was, except for kind of staring at it with my head tilted to the side like, This intuitive drawing turned out really interesting too. The only thing I could make out was the chair, so I blocked in the chair. And I was like, maybe those are TVs or something behind the chair, but I'm not really sure. So I think this would be an interesting one to revisit and maybe draw something from. So I have a third Caran d'Ache 50th anniversary 10, and this one is warm colors. So these are all colors that remind me of fire, but instead I chose to draw something completely opposite of that and decided to go with a horsefish or a seahorse, I'm sorry, a horsefish, goodness. But yeah, and I put these really cool creepy circles around it, which I thought was kind of fun. Really like this one. So this is like some sort of alien Saturn in a way, and then there's a bunch of like rocks coming at it, so it's almost like they're in motion coming straight for it. So I really like how that one turned out. I also really love this one. I really like just doing simple, clean little flower pots and flowers. I mean, I know it's the same thing over and over again, but I love that. Over here's another intuitive drawing where it became a frog. So it's a little frog sitting on a lily pad, and I thought he was cute just the way he was, so I left him like that. And then these are a bunch of little cartoon cats trying to squish their cute little faces into a doorway. On this page, this is a negative space painting, so what that means is I colored the entire page and then told myself that I was going to turn it into a flower. So then I did the middle part of the flower and then very slowly covered the rest of this in black and just put water over it. And then I used a white Neocolor and drew in the stem. Over here we've got some more landscape work. I really like how the water turned out here. I think that's pretty. I really love this one so much. We've got sunflowers again, which I've already told you are my favorite. And I really like how all the sunflowers are facing away from us. So it's the backs of the sunflowers that we're seeing there as they're facing towards the sun. I think it's really cool that there's little ones too. And then this one over here is really neat. So this is kind of like, imagine like a hazy evening or a hazy morning, and it's just the silhouette of a person as the sun's rising with that hazy fog everywhere. So it looks really cool, and I like how dramatic it is. Another simple flower one. This one was a very low effort piece, but I think it turned out really good. Like, I love how painterly it looks right here. Not really sure how I did that with just Neocolor IIs, but it looks really cool up in here, and I want to be able to do that again. This one over here, I was just playing around with lighting. I was trying to make a lighted sign. No idea what it says, to be honest. I was just copying what the sign had on it, and I don't think I did a very good job of that, but I do like the image. Okay, this is my favorite page, my favorite spread in the whole book, this part right here. Because, let me scooch this up a little bit. Look at the lighting in that. I even got the glowing on the tree and everything. Like, I just think that that looks so cool. And I love how the city's in the background. I love how there's glowing even in the leaves of the trees from the street lamp. Like, everything about this is a yes for me. I also really like this one over here. This one's very playful, completely different spectrum of colors. Whereas this one was super muted, this one's very bright, so it's really funny seeing them next to each other. This one was just another one just playing around. I love girly hearts and stuff like that, so I was just making a page of love. And then I've got this really pretty jellyfish in here, and one of my favorite parts about this is how the bubbles go in front of the jellyfish and you can see through them, and I think it looks really pretty. There's something I love about this. Okay, so this was another intuitive drawing where it was not only had intuitiveness in it, but also I decided that I was going to black out parts of it. And for some reason I chose circles. And when I colored in the black, suddenly it looked like you were holding up a piece of plastic and looking through the holes in it. And I love how weirdly 3D this looks. And I have no idea why it did that, but I love it. This was another intuitive drawing. It just turned into a big fat flower. Okay, this one right here is actually based off of this tree ornament that I bought. There was a lady that was at like an art show, and she was selling these spiders that she had made out of beads, and I really loved it. So I decided that I was going to buy it, and then I decided to draw it because I liked it that much. So yeah, I think I did a pretty good job on that. And then this over here is just an ant going through his little ant hole, working for the man in the colony. Over here we have a hippopotamus. I don't know why my hippo looks like he's seen things, but he's seen some things. And then over here, this is just, I have a lot of friends that are in Minnesota right now, and I just wanted to remind everyone to be strong. And that's where I'm going to leave it at that. Over here, I wanted to kind of reimagine Snow White. I don't draw people very often anymore, but I used to draw them all the time. but I wanted to draw something that I normally don't draw, so I wanted to just do a really simplistic Snow White, but kind of futuristic hair. Like, you know, more modern hair. So I think I achieved that. And then this is just a very exaggerated face. If I saw this person in real life, I'd probably find them very scary. This was playing with that warm color palette again from the 50th anniversary edition of the Neocolor IIs. I kept saying, man, it looks like fire. Like, you know, some of the colors. And then I was like, why don't I just make a fire? So I did. Don't ask me why the logs are purple. I don't know. It just felt right at the time. We've got some potted cactuses. This was a landscape that I did shortly after I ended my apprenticeship, and I was just kind of feeling a little lost, I think, so I just put those feelings all in this picture. And this is meant to be the road, but for some reason the road's coming up above above the ground, so maybe it's the road to nowhere. I don't know. Definitely an odd piece of art, but it has a lot of feeling in it. Okay, so I love this piece. I'm gonna see if I can turn it like this and still have it in the camera. There we go. So basically I drew like a Victorian looking home and then went over it in the Neocolors. I think it looks really cool, and I would love to redraw this again on something bigger. I like this spread, it's so cute. We've got a little ladybug and a flower over here, and then we've got this goober. Look at him, look at how cute he is, look at his hands. That is a cute lizard. Also really like this spread. Like I said, I like simple, clean spreads sometimes, so I really enjoyed doing these oranges. And I really like how this book over here to the side turned out too. I think that looks super good. This is another one that I really like. This is meant to be the pomegranate from the story of Persephone and Hades. So you've got the pomegranate open, and then you've got the 6 seeds of the pomegranate. So I really love that story, and I love that composition. I think I did a pretty good job there. This one over here is just a rusty old phone, and I just wanted something that was kind of crass and rusty, and I think I did what I got. Or I got what I think I got it right, is what I meant to say. This is another one where, like I said, I was taking my pens, drawing something out, and then coloring it. I kind of think maybe this is my style, guys. Like, I feel like even my roughest drawings look pretty darn good in this. So maybe you might start seeing more of these. And then over here, I just made like a burning tree. I don't know why, it just felt nice at the time. These are supposed to be some chili peppers and some garlics. I think it's fun trying to draw vegetables or simple things. And I think they turned out pretty nice. I also really like this little pot. It's simple, but it's lovely. And it's something that I would hang in my bathroom probably, like a little tiny, you imagine that, like a little tiny frame, like, oh, this is cute. Okay, so this guy is weird, but he's fun. I saw him on Pinterest, and I think it's an elephant, but I'm not certain. It's either an elephant or a weird bug with tiny wings. I don't know how it could be one or the other, but that's the answer to it. And I thought he was so weird and whimsical that I had to draw him. And then over here we have a door and some roses. These two are not my favorite. I struggled so much with this chess piece, and I really struggled with the orange because I didn't quite get that rind right. I got too much brown in it and darkened it too much. These are just not it. These are not my favorite. But however, on the next page we do have a favorite. I love how these grapes turned up. I think that they look shiny and juicy, and I want to munch on one. Nom 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 nom. But yeah, I really, really love how those grapes turned out. And then I also really like how these bell peppers turned out. I think this bell pepper is upside down. I think that's actually his butt. But this one's right side up, so yay. Then I tried to do the same thing with a purple onion, but it didn't quite work out. I will say I do really love the stems that came up here. I like how bright they are and how they almost pop off the page, but not sure what happened there. This is a Victorian kitty. Victorian kitty is just posing because they want to, and if we bother them, they're going to scratch us. And then my last picture was an egg. So that's it. That's all we've got in here. So that was 4 months worth of drawing every single day. I don't know what I'm gonna do without my companion anymore. This is so weird. Because I mean, I do have other journals, but this one was so perfect for so many things. So I'm gonna have to start again and see where that takes me. But hey, if you watched this, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, welcome. Hello. Hopefully I get to know you soon. Please leave a like, a comment, or even subscribe if you want to. And I'll see you next time. Bye.